Now I will talk about fonts and text in Blender a little bit. There is of course option how to add text. So if you press Shift A, you can see there's an option to add text. But first of all, yeah, there is some default font in Blender, but it's not that great. And if you want to create some stylized text, you might want to use some other fonts. And of course, if you have some fonts that are your favorite and you can imagine using them in this scene here, go ahead, use them, but I will show you where I get fonts for this scene. So you just go to the fonts.google.com, and I'm sure you're familiar with this site. And basically here you can scroll through many fonts which are completely free, and many of them are of a high quality. So if you're really searching through trending or popular fonts, many of them will have the characters you need and the quality of a good typeface. But be careful, some of the fonts might be of a lower quality since there are a lot of them here. So yeah, just be mindful of that. But never mind, we're just looking for some nice typeface for Blender or for a 3D scene. So we can basically reach out to any display typeface we like. So let's just search for some fonts. I've picked 3 for this scene, and one of them is called Monotone. And I will show you how to use this, how to download that. So here you can see there is a Monotone typeface and there's a little plus icon. So you can just click that and it will say the family is selected. The next one is Pacifico. And I really like this one, not only for a Blender. So you can see there's a Pacifico font, so let's add that. And the last one is Megr, so M-E-G-R. And yeah, that's kind of a really playful typeface. So let's add that. And right now, if you have your font selected, just open this. And you can see some instruction how to use this on a website, but there's a button here which says download this selection. So if you click that, your browser will download the fonts in the zip file. Then you just extract it and it's ready to use in Blender. So we're back in Blender and I hope you downloaded your fonts. I can bundle them here in the course since I can resell them or anything like that, and this is a paid bundle. So you will need to download them on your own. And yeah, we can start adding some text. So let's move the cursor where we'll start, and I want to start with the sign here. So let's move a cursor here in the middle. So press Shift, right click, and we can add the text here. So Shift A and select text from the menu here. And yeah, basically it's just the flat rendered text with some default font, and we need to modify that. So first of all, I want to place it correctly, so it'll need some rotations, but don't go into the edit mode because basically the edit mode for the text is typing, so we'll need to rotate it in the object mode. So let's just press R, then X and 90 to rotate it at 90 degrees, and then R again, Z and 90 degrees. Don't move it yet because we can use some text settings to place this correctly in the middle. And if you go here to the object data settings and scroll down a little bit, you can see that there's a paragraph section and there's an alignment for horizontal and vertical axis, and you can choose center here and the center on the vertical. And right now you have text in the middle, and you can use just S to scale. So let's press S and scale it down a little bit. But since we didn't select our font and type the text, we don't know the actual scale we'll need, so leave it like this for a moment. And right now let's just type in something. So let's press tab to enter the edit mode. and you can see there's a cursor there, and you can just delete this with backspace and write whatever you want. And I want to write 66 right now. Let's tab out, and right now we can select the font, we download it, and if you go here, there is a section named font, and there are options for regular, bold, italic and such, but I won't bother with this right now. I just want to select one font. So let's open here, navigate to your folder where the fonts are, pick up the monotone for this one and just open font. Right away you can see the font is applied, and you can scale this up a little bit. Let's look from the side and place it a little bit more in the middle, somewhere like this. It's still just the flat geometry I was talking about, and to give it some volume you can play with the geometry settings just like with the curves. The fonts have or the text objects have a geometry tab here as well, so you can play with things like offset, extrude, and beveling and stuff. So if you just play with the extrude, you can see we can create some nice 3D text. And if you would use the bevel depth, you can give it some bevel, but it's not very useful for this particular font. Okay, so let's reset the bevel, and for the extrude I just want something like 0.01. I want really flat geometry here, just popping up a little bit out of the sign here. And right now we can create the next one, but since we already created this one, we can use it to duplicate the new text object. So let's click this, go to the front view and press Shift D, then Z to lock it and move it up. So right now I want to rename this, so press Tab, delete the text and write cloud. So I've named this station Cloud 66. I think it's a nice joke there, basically with the Route 66 being in the sky. And we'll now just change the font to Pacifico. So navigate here where there is a regular font, select it and change this to Pacifico. And right now we can scale this down to match the 66 underneath, maybe grab it down a little bit, and it's perfectly centered, but optically it doesn't match that much since there's a little tilt to this font and there's too much empty space here, and the text is leaning to the right side, so it creates illusion it's misaligned. So I want to do some optical adjustments, so make it a little bit smaller maybe, and then grab it on the Y and move it like this, so it looks like it's placed a little bit more in the middle. Okay, so that's our sign, and maybe make this a little bit smaller, doesn't need to be so large, and place it according to your taste. So yeah, that's your first text object in Blender. Pretty easy, right? And we can move on and place some text objects throughout the whole scene and make some sign here and basically finish this. Right now we'll make use of snapping a little bit, so just select the cloud and yeah, enable snapping with Shift Tab right here and change it to face, and we can just Shift D to duplicate this and move it over here, and you will see how that nicely snaps to the surface. So let's move it there, it's placed correctly, and we can tab in and rename this to bar maybe, and we can make this a little bit larger on the side of the building, maybe move it a little bit higher. Basically do what you want here. And the next thing I want to do is to create some text here, and I want to do it with this font. So let's select the 66 and shift duplicate to move it here in the middle. Let's look from the front and move it approximately in the middle of the opening there. And let's scale this down, tab in and rename this to plutonium maybe. Okay. Now let's move this here on the roof of the building. So again, Shift D and move this right here, but I want to enable aligning the rotation. So let's move this again. It's much better. And place it somewhere in the middle. And I want to change fonts here, so let's go to the text settings again and select that last font we didn't use yet, and that's green. And it's really nice and playful. So let's delete this, tab in, and maybe write hot dogs or something like that. You can go really creative here to create your own stories. And yeah, the one last thing will be the sign over the building, but first we need to create some geometry there. So shift right click the cursor here and let's disable the snapping for a while. Shift tab. Now Shift A to add mesh plane. Let's just tab in, scale it on the Y axis, and right now rotate this on the X, move it up a little bit, something like this. Maybe scale it a little bit more on the Z axis and move it a little bit down. Okay, and just give it some volume, so extrude. We can now inset and extrude again. So this will be our sign, and right now just add another geometry. We don't need to tab out, just add cylinder. We can give it like 6 segments, doesn't need to be much because it will be really thin, and scale on the Shift Z, so on X and Y plane, to really fit the board like this. And right now go to the front view wireframe and we can scale it down. Go to the vertex select, bring this up a little bit. Now select this with the L to select only the linked part and grab it here on the x-axis, so G and X. Okay, and we'll need to do this as a separate object because right now we can just use the mirror modifier. So let's press P to separate that object, tab out, select the new object and give it a mirror modifier. Okay, and there's your sign. Right now the only thing left is just to select this text here, enable snapping again, Shift tab, Shift D to duplicate, move it here. We can go to the front view to have a better view of this and tab in, and let's say this is a pit stop. Make this a little bit smaller. And there you go. These are your text objects, and we can further add some details. Then we'll move on to the car modeling and the modeling will be done basically.